Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you back here in the Sustainability Lounge. Dr. Sam Horseman here with you, the lead for the IMPACT10X Sustainability United Nations Sustainable Development Goals event. I'm also the JCU Innovation Facilitator across the campuses. And so it's great to have you back here to have some critical conversations around sustainability. And today I'm honored to have Ian Christensen here, who is the Managing Director of iMove. And what we're going to have a conversation around today is around about transportation, the future of transportation, around sustainability, in fact, around social and also environmental context. And we'd love to hear more about iMove. So over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Samantha, and it's great to be with you. As Samantha mentioned, I'm from iMove, and for those of you who haven't heard of iMove before, iMove is a cooperative research centre focused on transport. We focus on developing and adopting technologies that will improve the movement of people and goods. Now that's a pretty wide agenda, so we take our lead, or we set our agenda according to the preferences of our industry and government partners. So basically they tell us what keeps them awake at night, or what are the problems or opportunities they want to address. And then we find the resources, the people, the skilled researchers that can help them find solutions or resolutions to the issues that they're dealing with. So that gives us a pretty broad perspective on the challenges facing transport. And it's not going to be any surprise to you that sustainability is one of the key trends or the key challenges that the transport sector is facing. And when I say transport sector, I know iMove is an Australian organisation, so we focus primarily on the Australian transport sector. But actually, the same problems turn up in pretty much every other country as well. And these are problems to do with community access to transport, to the impact that transport has on the environment, on the community, and on people's the effectiveness or the enjoyment of people's lives. So let's go right back to the start. Why do we have transport? Why do we care about transport? Well, we care about transport fundamentally because humans like to interact, and we need to keep that sort of at the back of our mind in all the other conversations. We're having this meeting by electronic means, and that's great. But I think we can all recognise that electronic meetings, while they're wonderful, they're a wonderful aid, they're not a substitute for meeting face to face. So people still want, need to meet. So the question is, how as a community and a society do we organise that to happen so that people can be fulfilled in their needs, but at the same time that it doesn't cost socially, cost financially, cost environmentally the community too much, or at least we minimise the damage. So that leads us to sustainability. So let's talk about social sustainability first, partly because nearly everybody talks about environmental sustainability first. And in fact, whilst that's a big issue, I think it's probably not the main issue. So social sustainability, what do we mean by that? When we think about social sustainability, we're largely referring to things like accessibility to transport, the availability of options. Do people have a choice? Is there a realistic public transport alternative? Do they have facilities by which they could walk if they wanted to? And what about people in wheelchairs? People who have other mobility challenges in any of their senses. How is it that the transport system that we create, how can they serve everybody, every single person in the community? It's pleasing to hear that we've got a government that now actually has as part of its philosophy, part of its mantra, that we won't leave people behind. And that's an important step forward. And it's particularly important in transport because there's a tendency when we take a utilitarian approach that, all right, well, we'll build a railway line between point A and point B because that's where most of the people are. But what about the poor people who are living out at point C, who are nowhere near the railway line? If we put all our money into the railway line and we do nothing, then we end up creating a transport desert for the people at point C. And sustainability would say that that's actually not an acceptable outcome. Transport deserts lead to a sort of stratification in community. Stratification because the people that are abandoned in the desert can't meet each other, they can't go to work, they can't, it's harder for them to shop. And so their choices in life become severely constrained simply because they don't have access to transport options or realistic transport options. So we would argue that as the community work moves forward and engages with new technologies and new, new forms of transport and new transport technologies. I'm thinking here about e-scooters and e-bikes and automated cars and helicopters, if you like. But as we wrestle with these new technologies, how do we formulate their engagement so that we don't create transport deserts, and so that we do create a reasonable degree of choice for everybody in the community? So that's a sort of a take on social sustainability. So now let's go to environmental sustainability. So again, we've got a new government in town, and they have overtly recognised, thank goodness, that we have some environmental challenges, and not least of which are caused by our carbon emissions. Carbon emissions are in fact not the only environmental challenge that transport creates. So land use and pollution and noise pollution and other factors also come into it. But to be fair, carbon pollution, carbon emissions are the big game in town at the moment. And the difficulty, of course, is that transport is, in the main, it's addicted to carbon. It's addicted to diesel, it's addicted to petrol, and most of us struggle to actually contemplate what the world and our communities would be like if we could no longer use petrol or no longer use diesel. But actually, that's the transition that we have to contemplate. Net zero by 2050 means that we actually have to wean ourselves off petrol and diesel and find another way to get around. And I don't mean more Zoom meetings and Teams. That's not getting around. That doesn't satisfy the face-to-face requirement of transport. So, of course, yes, there's a lot of discussion about electric cars, and they're going to save the nation. And if they don't, then hydrogen will come along behind and save it instead. And sort of that's true, or at least we hope it's true. That's certainly what everybody is expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are some other challenges hidden in behind that relate to transport sustainability and emissions. So what's the world going to be like if everybody ends up owning and running an electric vehicle? Kind of, if you think congestion's bad now,
Mm-hmm.
you just wait until everybody is driving an an environmentally friendly electric vehicle. It is going to be hell. It'll make it difficult to get to anywhere because we can't possibly build roads fast enough and wide enough to cope with all the traffic. So inside the sustainability bubble, or the question,
Mm-hmm.
is also a question of how the community, how do we arrange our travel activity so that we make less demand on the land, on the space, and on people's time. And
Mm,
so, if you thought
yes.
weaning ourselves off carbon was difficult, you wait to try to wean ourselves off privately owned vehicles.
Mm,
That's going to be an order of magnitude more difficult. So, they're the sorts of things that we wrestle with in the iMove Cooperative Research Centre. And if you've got partners who have an idea or have an initiative they want to try out or develop, then we'd be very pleased to hear from you. Thank you.
excellent. And Ian, you never know what might come out of Impact 10X. So it will be great. I'll send another invitation. And if your schedule allows, on October 11th, we'll be doing a demo day. So, and I'll definitely highlight if there are any specific projects that lean into what you've just shared with us. I think it would be great to definitely share that with you. I think it's really fantastic. We've got a couple more minutes, and I think you did an amazing overview, but right in depth, and you challenged us in a way to look at the social and environmental challenges that we have within transportation here in Australia. How would you what advice would you give to our participants that are just going to be embarking on this exploration of technology, innovation, social science, for example, over this next 6 weeks? If you were to give some words of wisdom or some advice, just as a closing theme, what would you share with our participants?
Well, my one overarching comment would be to always remember that transport is about people, and it's actually only about people. Even freight transport is actually only about getting people the goods that they want. So, as you contemplate different ideas, different initiatives, and the like, I would exhort you to keep in mind that at the end of the day, the merit of your idea will depend on its acceptability and it's the willingness of other people than you. Other people, will they adopt it? Will
Mm,
they also see that it's a good idea? So, because in some way, whatever your idea is, you need to bring the community along with you to make it happen. Otherwise, it just stays a good idea that's going to sit on the shelf and not be very effective. So keep people at the center of your contemplation of what improvement looks like.
excellent. Being human centric and customer centric, right?
Mhm.
And we're seeing this. This is amazing advice. And again, this is also advice that everyone has shared. Talk to your customer, talk to the people that were in the problem, right? So in relation to transportation, it's passengers and it's drivers, right? That is
Very
the
much
market,
so.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really speak to the human that's actually involved in that system. I think that's amazing advice, and again, it actually echoes what we're hearing again and again from global thought leaders. And we see this a lot in our space and innovation space. Amazing tech, fantastic tech, but doesn't solve the problem of the end user.
Yes,
So
I think if the tech will take care of itself once you're clear about the problem that you're trying to solve and the benefit you're trying to create and for whom. So keep a clear eye on what you're trying to do for people, and then you'll be able to find the tech to deliver it.
awesome advice. And Ian, we're right on the money here. It's just perfect timing. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for spending your very precious time with us, and the insights that you've given us. I think they're amazing, and I know that it's going to really ring true for a lot of our innovators on our Impact 10X. So thanks again, Ian, and look forward to seeing you at the end of the road, and like to invite you back to our demo day in October. See you soon.
Thanks, Sam, and good luck to you all.
Thank you.